It's a new frontier. You'd like to do a talk, hey, feel free. I mean, some people may say I have a big head, but this all at one time it ain't gonna work. Because it's all about input and output. Everything's input and output. It is. It really is. I don't know what that does if you're standing upside down on your head, but we don't know. I don't know, he's tired of it or he's learning from it. Well, I know it. I'd like to share with you tonight. I think about medical science experiments today. That's what we're going to do. Just a little bit. I like history. In 200 years, history's going to be looking at today like we looked at what they did to George Washington 200 years ago. I've been thinking about the best scientific minds of the day said to George Washington, not even 200 years ago, said, George, you look a little pale. I think we need to have good bleeding here. So they basically bled him to death. This is the second brain video that we're doing. You got a pickle brain, really. Well, how about that? And, you could call me a redneck brain doctor or something like that. I want to talk to you about this right here. This represents your brain, okay? Sort of. How many of you have opened up a guacamole? Because that's the same texture as your brain. And I challenge these doctors to call me out on this. These little video clip things, I don't want to make them too long. Our cameraman, he can't control himself. The cameraman. This is John. He's my son. He's behind all these shenanigans going on right now. Are you going to do this? Come on, we're going to talk about the brain. Every morning I wake up John with a brain video. John is quite featured in the book, this one right here. And it's not just a book about poor me. It's advocating to help people with their lives, to live a better life. You want to get a close-up, John? You got anything you want to say, John? No? Okay. One of the reasons I'm really apt to do this is because that's what happened to George Washington. And that's kind of what we're doing here with all these crazy pharmaceuticals and these so-called psychiatrists and neurologists and all of these people. I got a little bit of science. This is the famous bottle. Essentially represents 591 milliliters of water. Now, this represents really supposedly 650 milliliters of water. Well, I should say CSF. And if you've been paying attention to my post on the Living with Thunder page, you'll know that CFS is cerebral spinal fluid. That much liquid is in your head. Really, at one time, you only have about this much of this fluid in your brain. What does it do? It's kind of like a shock absorber when it surrounds your brain. But throughout the day, your body produces this much of this stuff. And that means you got to be drinking all day, or you really got to have some fluids going through you to make that much. My question for these neurologists and scientists and brain experts, how do they know it's 650 milliliters a day that it's making? I don't know. But so I want to show y'all something. It acts as a shock absorber. It surrounds the brain. It's sort of like the brain blood. So it delivers nutrients to the brain and it picks up waste. So it comes up from the ventricles in your head and it kind of comes down. It comes down into the second and the third and the fourth ventricle, and then it goes down your spinal cord and comes back, and then it circles around your head, gets absorbed, and dumps into your jugular vein. So what I'm proposing is, if we can get the inputs and trend the data, let's say if you're 20 years old or even younger, and we can collect the data on you, either by blood or what is the trend or baseline, then we know. So that's about how much is in your brain, an adult brain at any one time. The thing is, that's clear, and that's what your brain rests in. Everybody's the same, things change, And some body parts work, some of them don't work. And so these doctors give us this pharmaceutical stuff, and then we ingest it. And so your blood takes it up to the filters that create the. Now here's what I'm saying: as we get older, things happen to us. Stuff. Well, there goes the rest of your brain right there. Alcohol is one of the few things that goes right through the brain barrier into the CSF and can affect the brain. Here's what I'm saying. Let's say that you take medicine and you mix it with stuff in your body. I don't know, or some things don't work, and it gets in here, and somehow it gets through the brain barrier, and it's not clear anymore, see? If your brain is resting in here and it has some sort of acidic value, a pH value changes in here, then what happens to your brain? Well, I guess it gets pickled. And that's kind of what Alzheimer's does. It starts like this, in a healthy brain. Look here, John, you getting this? It starts like here, like this. This is like a normal brain. But then, as it sits in this stuff with acid, so to speak, it gets further and forward. It starts getting eaten up. And that's what happens in Alzheimer's. Just imagine throughout the day, if you're taking medication or whatever, then you get this stuff in here and it starts affecting your thinking. And if it's the whole thing is electronic, it's like a circuit board. And if you put stuff that creates a circuit, positive and negative electrons in here, I don't want to get into all that this video. I just want to talk to you about that. My theory is everything is, in Alzheimer's, it's a water problem. You got to deal with your inputs and outputs. So if you're putting bad stuff in your body, then I can guarantee you that somehow in your brain, you're having trouble thinking or you're forgetting or whatever, then I can probably tell you, my guess is that if we could test what's going on or trend to CSF fluid, then you're going to find you may have some polluted CSF in your head, and we need to get that filter out. That's about the size of it today. It's all about the inputs and outputs. The challenge for you is to come up with what you think we ought to call these little talks. I'm calling it brain sense, common sense, and it follows the common sense. Anything else, cameraman John? There's other things, but it's a mad world out there, and we don't know. It's a new frontier. Well, thanks for stopping by. Hope you come back. That's all.